Really, I just want to discuss what's going on in Gaza today, which is the 31st of October, basically because reporting coming out of Gaza isn't as high profile in Western media anymore because they're trying to put forward this idea that, oh, there's a ceasefire, everything's fine now, even though Israel keeps killing Palestinians. And Al Jazeera's live updates pages are very good. Like the reporting is quite concise, but gets right to the facts throughout. Obviously, they have links off to the more in-depth articles talking about the things that is in the live updates, clearly, but it's very useful. So I do recommend you go off and maybe have like their live updates page off to the side, or whenever you need to catch up very quickly, you can do that here. So this is being recorded at 11 p.m. GMT on Friday, the 31st of October, and basically we're going to go through the kind of here's what's happened today, the main, the recap of what has gone on today, and just kind of explaining and going through kind of the lack of actual reporting on this that is being done by the Western media. So the first thing is something that's actually being reported on. Israel returns bodies of 30 Palestinians to health authorities in Gaza, completing an exchange after Hamas handed over remains of 2 captives. So Israel has these bodies of Palestinians. This is something that Western media isn't really talking about. They're talking about these 2 captives, but they're not really explaining why does Israel have the bodies of Palestinians. Well, Israel has the bodies of Palestinians because they kill them. They murder them in their prison camps, they murder them in their prisons, they just murder them on the streets. But really, Western media is only really concentrating on the 2 captives who, sometimes they're civilians, most of the time they're soldiers. What can I say? Despite the ceasefire, the Israeli army carried out strikes across Gaza today, killing at least 3 people across the Strip. This is predominantly, at least what I read, in the south of the Strip. So again, is it really a ceasefire if Israel keeps killing people? Not really. Israel has carried out 2 airstrikes in southern Lebanon, despite an ongoing ceasefire, killing at least 1 person there. Again, is it a ceasefire if Israel keeps killing people in Lebanon? No, it's not. The United Nations was able to deliver 840 pallets of life-saving medical supplies to Gaza, including insulin and surgical equipment, but a senior official said the health system in the enclave continues to face a significant challenge in addressing the immense need faced by the people in Gaza. This is important. 840 pallets. This isn't 840 trucks. These are the pallets you get on a truck. I can't tell you logistically how many pallets you get in per truck. It depends on the pallet, depends on the truck. I can't tell you how many. It is significantly less than 1,000 trucks worth, which is, remember, a minimum of 1,000 trucks a day should be going in. Israel is, I think, listing about 300 in. So 840 pallets. Amazing, it's going in. Far, far, far off where we should be in terms of aid going into Gaza. Ahmed Wadran, the Palestinian Civil Defense Media Officer in Rafah, South Gaza, told Al-Aqsa TV that more than 10,000 Palestinians were trapped under the rubble. I think that's even an understatement. I think that's probably, you can probably add a 0 to that at the very least. And the thing is, people trapped under that rubble, how long is it going to take to actually dig the rubble? You're already seeing images of decomposed bodies in Gaza from the last 2 years, where people have, people who managed to get back to the north before Israel started killing them again. They found decomposing loved ones. Well, what they had assumed were loved ones in the rubble of their homes, of the buildings they lived in, beyond recognition. So I think it's far more than 10,000, probably, in my opinion. The UN Office for the Coordination of Human Affairs, OCHA, OSHA, probably similar to the US, said that this year's olive harvest season in the occupied West Bank has seen the highest levels of damage by settlers in 5 years. So, again, something Western media isn't talking about. Settlers have gone out of their way to attack farmers and to attack their crops. So, olive oil, big source of income for Palestinians. even though they also don't get to control their money because the PA allowed Israel to control their money, which is stupid. The settlers, illegal settlers, as I like to call them, which they are, have been targeting these harvests because the Palestinians kind of see olives and olive oils and olive trees, and olives, are a symbol of peace throughout history. They see it as a form of resistance, being able to get the profits of their own labor and be, have some sort of stability away from the occupation. And the settlers hate it, and the settlers are definitely being egged on by the Israeli government to go and attack the farmers. Which, what is the West going to say? The West going to say, oh, it's fine, whatever, they're allowed to. Hamas official Mahmoud Mardawi condemned far-right Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir for reiterating his call for the death penalty for Palestinian prisoners detained in Israel. Important to note, Palestinian prisoners do not face trial in Israel. They are kidnapped and taken into Israel or taken into prison camps in the West Bank that have been illegally constructed and beaten and tortured without trial. They are taken, detained indefinitely and beaten and abused. This isn't in here, but remember that this is going to be dark. If you remember that footage of the Israeli soldiers or prison guards sexually assaulting a prisoner, Israel is doing an investigation not into the people who sexually assaulted that prisoner, but an investigation into the person who whistleblowed onto the sexual assault. They're investigating the person who leaked about mass sexual assault of prisoners. That is the kind of society so-called Israel is. Calling it society is a stretch, in my opinion, to be honest. And then finally, the US's highest-ranking military officer met his Israeli counterpart and took a helicopter tour over Gaza, US military sources told Al Jazeera. This can only mean bad things. Like, if you have a US military officer in a place, it can only mean bad things. Does it mean US soldiers in Gaza? Probably not. They're preoccupied sending boys off to go get killed in Venezuela and Colombia, it seems. But, you can never trust an American. That's just, that is a motto to live by. You can never trust an American. And once you live by that motto, you're kind of set to go in life. But yeah, just the Western media isn't telling you these things. Or at least here in the UK, they're not telling us these things, or they'll dance around it. They'll talk about the remains of 2 captives. They'll talk about that. They'll tweet about that, but they won't talk about the Palestinians being killed. They won't talk about the people in Lebanon being killed. They won't talk about the severe lack of aid. They won't talk about, the settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, because it doesn't fit their narrative. And the narrative they want to put forward is Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, except it's a democracy that illegally detains people indefinitely and abuses them and sexually assaults them and tortures them and tortures their families and destroys their livelihoods and controls every aspect of their life. When they talk about, when conservatives talk about like dystopian living in a dystopia, but they support Israel, that's like, the imagined life that conservatives think the imagined life that conservatives are scared of here in places like the UK and the US is the lived reality of people in Palestine. And yet they support Israel's actions in doing that. It tells you a lot about conservative and liberal ideology, to be honest. And it is horrible and depressing, and the reason why, if you are someone who cares about the liberation of oppressed peoples, you can't stop. It's a long and arduous journey. It may be a journey we do not see in our lifetimes. If you are watching this video, we may not see that liberation in our lifetimes, but our role is to help facilitate that liberation, even if it comes in the lifetime after ours.